there's a town in Germany that has an I want to say it's an Arushiron or something like that, but it's in their town center. It's in their town, like, and if you ask the German people, they say it's protecting the town. In fact, if anybody who's listening, there's an experiment I want you to do. I want to be wrong, but I've checked this website many times and I'm positive it is. If you go to the Vatican website, right, type in any African tribe you can think of, Igbo, Yoruba, Akan, anything like that. And you will find all of those things that they called evil that you went and handed to your church people, and your church people went and handed it to their leaders, kind of thing. All of those things that were labeled evil are all for sale on the Vatican website. Now, I want to be wrong. I want to think that this is not the Vatican. It's too obvious. And it's so obvious that why would I, sitting here in Texas, see this and nobody else see it? I'm not even happy. It's on the Vatican website. It's all for sale. And it's not for sale for like $1, $2, $3. It's thousands. Once it becomes the African one, it's thousands of dollars. Right? But the same, the Virgin Mary statue will be like $50, $15, $19, you know? But the Nemiri, the African one, will be 2,300, 4,000, 1,200. And the people behind them are the people there in Europe. There are people, someone told me this, we had an experience with these people, that there are white people in, I'm not going to say where, because some people, it's very high, so they might do this thing, but there's an African town, there's a town in Africa where there's groups of white people that are just there to buy artifacts. You're able to steal something from your family or bring something from your family and kind of thing, go and sell it to them. And a lot of the churches say, oh, bring all these things, bring all these things. That's exactly where those things go. The smart churches, right? To go sell it and receive their money. So these people know that these things have value, but they have your head, and they've already told you that it has no value, so they can take it for you from cheap and then sell you their own thing for very high, right? So now you're paying for a shirt what they're making from selling your ancestral legacy. It's again, if someone says juju is not real or doesn't exist, there's an example right there.
It's strange. It's strange the way it is. Anyway, maybe that is why, as a people, we need to keep searching for knowledge, for the kind of knowledge that bring us out in this world, that sort of represent or the way we really are. All right. Now, talking of knowledge, I'm talking of the responsibility, our responsibility to be able to reshape our history, to tell our story, the way we really are, the way it represents us. In this podcast, I say often that history is only a version of a story. And that version of a story, of course, depends on who is telling the story. So there is no one history that talks about the world without every story is partial. Let's just take it like that. So we must tell our story from the partiality where we are at the advantage. That is the only African story. For that reason, like Dr. Ben was saying, I think I said it's awful, the European cannot tell African story because there is no way he can tell African story, because story is not just numbers. There are feelings about it, there are sentiments about it. How can you come and put other people's sentiment in your own story? It doesn't work. The Igbo cosmology, what do you want people to know about that?
There's a lot to be known, but if somebody's going to walk away with something, right, it is the saying, Onyekwe, Chiekwe, right? That is, if I've been asked often, if there's one thing you want people to know, what's one of it? It's Onyekwe, Chiekwe. Now, what does that mean? What you will, your God wills. Now, what is that? Why is that the one I want them to walk away with, right? Is because in this way of understanding, that saying will let you know the relationship an individual has with, they want to call it God, the universe, whatever they believe in, right? The relationship they have is that you are not entirely a servant of this thing. There's a two-way relationship. And if it says go this direction, and you say, you know what, I want to go in this direction, it's coming with you, right? Now it knows why it told you to go in that direction. You understand? So it's not completely. One of the things that I like about Odinala Ndibo is that, or Odinala to be brief, or Odinani as I call it, because I have a hard time pronouncing the L. One of the things that I like about it, one of the things that's very empowering, is that it allows an individual to take back their agency. Take back their agency. I don't need to go to all these different places to know who God is and know God. That God is within me. And the very specific way I believe in God and the very specific language I have around God and the way I connect to God is the way it's supposed to be. Each the world is a person of their chi. I cannot tell you who your chi. I cannot tell you who your God is, that kind of thing. That's not up to me. You look inside yourself and figure out what it is and learn what it is and rediscover what it is and move accordingly. Right? So there's this wonderful way that it empowers an individual to know that you are enough. You have what it takes. If somebody's telling you about God and that doesn't make sense to you, there's a reason it doesn't make sense, including myself, including myself. I'm not here to convert anybody. I don't care. If you whatever you want to do, I don't care. It's not my business, right? Because if I were here to persuade or convince, I could only talk about the good things. And if I only talk about the good things, I won't be able to tell the full story. Right? So I don't care what anybody follows. I'm just telling you the one that makes sense to me. And some of the ones that don't make sense, there's a lot of it that doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not particular to, right? But when it comes to your chi, when it becomes to, we say in the Western way, in the Abrahamic way of thinking, when you say God, it means like this thing that everybody shares. But in our ancestral way, each person has their own. And all of those things come together is the truth, H. And all of those things come together to form a big picture, like you said, the big 360, right? But you will never know that 360 because you will never meet everybody who's supposed to exist and has existed and that kind of thing.
And you're not really supposed to. You are not supposed to.
Exactly. And
I think the conflict.
Define the relationship you have with that thing based on your truth. But go ahead, man.
I think the conflict that we're having in the world today is because the Europeans said they know everything about this, about life, about this world. So everybody must know this world according to them. Yes. It is wrong. Right. It is absolutely wrong. Right. You see, when I was much smaller, but then I was still very strong as a Catholic now. We were going to the church. My father was seeing us going to the church. He never have any problem with us. We could go. We just go.
Yes.
We went there because my father had a shrine where he revered his ancestors.
Yes.
He never forced any of us to come and join him.
Right.
Because, like you are saying, this is spirituality. Spirituality is not religion. Religion is, I know the way. Mine is the only way. Every other thing is wrong.
Exactly.
Now, look at it from a mere common sense. If you benches against another, the only thing that will result is conflict. Because if mine is the only way, yours is the only way, then what is the only way? Then I must kill you or fight you so that my way is accepted. But this is wrong. And this is how the West understand God. This is why, for example, for 200 years, there was crusade fighting in the name of God between European and the Arabs. Because they believe that they know the best. The Arab believe that that is not God. That is man-made God. God, as we understand it, of course, again, we are talking as Africans. The way we understand it is you have a direct relationship between you and your God. You do not need anybody to lead you to God. You already know it is inside you. It's not there. It is in there. So you don't need a house. You don't need a fancy car, dressing to go. God doesn't need, this is not what God needs. Please go.
Oh, it's okay. It's funny too, because if you ask somebody to describe all the people in the world, they'll tell you that's an impossible task. If you ask somebody to describe every single person who has ever lived, they'll tell you it's an impossible task. If you ask them to describe everything that exists, they'll tell you it's impossible. but almost everybody has a very specific description of God. And God created all these things. God is greater than all these things. So if you can't fathom knowing the names of everybody that's ever existed, how do you fathom knowing the thing that created all those different things? If it is greater than all those individual parts, right? It's like I write something down on a piece of paper, right? And somebody can't fathom understanding the complexity of it, but that person will tell you they know everything happening in my head, right? It doesn't make sense. I, as the creator of that thing, I'm greater than that thing I created.